And because I just feel free from them, like I've given them the love and attention they've needed, and the care and the nourishment and the healing that they've required, I can let them go, and I don't really like connect with the past in that way anymore.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together.
Let's dive into the episode.
Hello and welcome back. You're here with Holly, and today I'm joined again with Ellie Stiles. We're doing a part 2 to the episode that we did in April called Reconnecting to Your Womb's Wisdom, which if you haven't listened to that and you're a woman, I highly recommend listening to that episode. I'll have it linked in the show notes below. But in this episode for part 2, we are specifically diving into healing and reconnecting to your body and womb after having an abortion. And a few weeks ago, I shared my personal story with abortion. I had one 11 years ago. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly encourage you to listen to that one just to give you some context into my story, my experience, and why we're having this conversation today. And yeah, I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for those of you that reached out. That was a really hard episode for me to film, like really a huge piece in me stepping into my voice and no longer abandoning myself and really choosing me and choosing my heart and like allowing my experience to be heard and to take up space and yeah, move out of my comfort zone. That was honestly a really hard episode for me to put out. I had a lot of fear that I was facing because I know how polarizing this topic is and, how it's viewed in society. And yeah, it was just really scary for me. I had a lot of fear that I was facing and that I still feel in my body sometimes because I'm sure people are talking about me, either in a positive or not so positive way. And that's okay. But I just want to thank all of you that reached out because I received so many DMs, comments, voice notes, text messages, phone calls with such beautiful support. And it genuinely just means the world to me. So I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart truly for the support that I've received because yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's really hard. It's really hard to put yourself out there. It's really hard to share something so personal and so close to my heart and place it out there for others to interpret, to judge, to whatever it may be. I know for some I'm really inspiring people. For others, I think I'm bringing up a lot of shadows and anger and judgment and all of that. And like, I honor it all, but it was hard. It's hard to move through that. It's really difficult. So I just want to thank all of you for those of you that really showed support and that feel seen and feel heard by me because I receive so many other stories of women that have experienced something similar. So I'm just so yeah, grateful and just know that you're not alone and yeah, we're in this together. So yeah, as I mentioned in that solo episode, like I know this is a very polarizing topic and I do not take it lightly. Like I genuinely don't, but I've been feeling called to talk about this in a way that feels really true for me because it's so needed right now with women's rights being stripped away. Like the time is now and it is like we are calling women forward to really use their voices and stand in their power. The time is now. And I feel so ignited by that. And I actually feel such deep anger for where we are in our world right now when I really feel like that deep feminine rage of our rights being stripped away. Like there's so much anger that's been coming up within me too. There's power, there's a deep fire, inner knowing, inner strength, and then this deep rage and anger for where we are. But I know it's igniting so many of us and really helping pushing women to use their voices, including myself. So yeah, the time is now. And I don't think that everyone who has had an abortion needs to speak about their experience publicly. Like, I don't think that's the case, but I know that I'm being called to share my perspective in a really bold way and my story in a really bold way, in a way that feels true for me, to really support those women who are carrying their experience in shame and silence, because I know that abortion is far more common than it's talked about because of the stigma that surrounds it. And that has been confirmed by me from me sharing my story and other people reaching out. It is a far more common experience than we realize. And there is such a silent shame that so many women carry alone. And that shame is disconnecting us from our bodies, from our sexuality in a healthy way, from our worth, from our power. And we are being called to let it go, because keeping your experience a secret, or just having that experience and not talking about it, to act like it didn't happen, doesn't make it go away. Like, shame thrives in secrecy and keeps us stuck, and will show up in your life in negative ways of not feeling worthy of good things happening to you, or being disconnected from your sexuality, or allowing yourself to be mistreated and feel like you deserve it because this past experience that you had, which is just not true. And I just feel we are really being called as women to face and to feel and to alleviate this silent shame that we have been carrying for decades, a shame that was never ours to carry in the first place. And again, like I mentioned in my solo episode, I do not believe that any woman is setting out to have an abortion. I think it's a really hard decision that no woman wants to have to make most of the time, but it should be a choice. It should be the woman's choice. And that choice right now is being taken away. And we must protect women's rights. We must protect women's rights. We have fought way too hard to get to where we are today, women, to give up now. Like, now is the time to use our voices. And to be so clear, as I was in my other episode too, this is not to encourage or discourage abortion. Abortion is not a form of contraception. You should use contraception, but mistakes happen. And even if you're taking all those precautions, you still can get pregnant. And I just want to make it so incredibly clear. This is not about to encourage or discourage abortion. It's really to allow space for it all, the complexities, the layers, and to really support women in healing after these procedures that may be carrying this deep shame and guilt, especially with the religious and societal doctrine that runs so deep in our bones. So, in this episode, Ellie and I also dive into religious beliefs, specifically our experiences growing up Catholic. And I just really want to say, and I want to level the playing field here, because I don't think Catholicism is all bad. I'm only speaking about Catholicism because I grew up Catholic. That's my personal experience. There are so many good people in this faith, people that I love dearly that are in this faith. And I truly see the beauty in Catholicism. I see the beauty in the community aspect and bringing people together and remembering Jesus. And I am so deeply grateful for my parents for raising me in this faith, to have such deep, great faith. My parents have great faith. And that is a faith that I carry. I carry such deep faith still to this day, but it's in a way that feels really true for me now. And I have to honor that, because I see the beauty and the good in Catholicism. And then I also see the distortion in the teachings, especially around abortion. And I have to call them out. I have to honor how I feel, and I have to speak on them in a way that feels really true for me, because it's hurting so many of our women. And I believe we need to shed light on it. There needs to be accountability, and I will not be complacent. I will use my voice, and I cannot and I will not apologize for that. I hope you listen to this with an open mind and open heart. And if you yourself have experienced an abortion, I hope that you find deep healing in this, because this episode is for you. So, with that, let's dive into it. Well, hello and welcome back to the podcast, Ellie. I'm so excited to sit down with you again. How are you?
Thank you for having me again. I'm so excited to dive into abortion today and all of the conditioning. It's more important now than ever to just articulate. I'm feeling a strong desire within the feminine to articulate right now through the throat chakra. So I'm excited to just openly share with you.
Yeah, me too. I feel like there's definitely a call to speak about this now more than ever. And it's like, I feel like not every woman that has had an abortion needs to be talking about it, but I feel like specific women are like being called to talk about it to raise awareness about like the stigma, the conditioning, societal pressures, religious, all of the things. Like I think it's such an important conversation right now. It's uncomfortable. It's definitely like sticky. I've had to work through so much fear and like being comfortable talking about these things, but it's now is the time. Like now is the time. So I'm so grateful for you and your openness to talk about this because I feel you're the one that inspired me to honestly start talking about it more publicly because I saw one of your videos on TikTok and I knew that was planted on my feed as like a little plant of like, okay, look at Ellie, get the courage. It's time. It's time. So I'm just so grateful for you for having the courage to talk about your experiences too, which we're going to obviously dive into. Just kind of want to have a conversation, you know, sharing about our experiences, how to heal and reconnect to the body and the womb after having an abortion, because I know we both grew up in Ohio in the Catholic faith. And I just think like the stigma in society and in religion is very real. And I don't think we realize how much shame we carry like in our bodies and in our wombs, both consciously and unconsciously. Like I think it's like it's almost like a subconscious thing that we carry in our bodies and our minds and in our wombs, and it's keeping us stuck like and out of our power. And I think for most women, oftentimes when they make the choice to have an abortion, it's a secret, which shame thrives in secrecy. And yeah, I feel like I just like to start maybe with you sharing your story and like how you felt during that time in your life, whether you had support. Was this a secret for you? Did you feel alone? Did you have your parents' support? Like, yeah, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, wow. So I grew up Catholic and my parents practice Catholicism to this day. So when I found out that I was pregnant, it was a secret. And I think that was one of the hardest things when I was going through the process, like feeling like I couldn't share this with my mom. And that was the one person that I like was yearning for support from. I think deep inside was like, who can hold me through this?
Mhm.
This is I can't turn anywhere because it's shameful and it's like blacklisted. Like you're gonna get
Right.
blacklisted in the Catholic faith.
Right.
Um and I was 19 and I was actually right before I found out, I then had to go on a family vacation. So I
Oh,
found
okay.
out, and then I was on a family vacation.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and I was deeply discerning at the time whether or not I wanted to keep the pregnancy. I wasn't positive, like, oh, I'm going to have an abortion. It wasn't an automatic answer for me. I genuinely was thinking about this decision. But ultimately I knew that it would alter my path for the rest of my life. And I would be in Ohio and I'd probably be living at home and I wouldn't have a supportive father. And so I was, looking at all these different factors. Um, but I remember going into the clinic for the first time. Actually, this is a key detail. I went to go get an ultrasound to
Hmm.
confirm the pregnancy.
Hmm.
And I was like, I had done a test pregnant. I'm like, I need to confirm this. And they offer free ultrasounds. There was this clinic in Columbus, Ohio. I was going to Ohio State at the time, but I didn't know that it was a Catholic organization
Hmm. Yeah.
that would sit you down after the ultrasound and tell you all the reasons why you should keep this baby and why abortion was not the pathway to choose. So I remember after that ultrasound, like sitting down at this couch with this woman, she's giving me a pamphlet and essentially like, you should keep the baby and here's the reasons why.
Mhm.
Um, and, I left that appointment still in consideration, still in deep consideration. And ultimately, I chose to have an abortion and I ended up going through with the surgical procedure. And gosh, there are so many layers to this because well, first of all, different clinics have different people around them, either protesting or, you're walking into a really vulnerable situation and there's 8 people outside of the door before you're about to get something surgically removed from your body, shaming you, yelling at you, throwing things. And
Yeah.
I remember walking into that room and just feeling so deeply alone, even though
Mhm.
there was a line of women in the same room. And I was just wondering, what are you feeling? Where did you come from? What's your story? And do you want me to
Mhm.
keep going? Like,
Well, yes, I want you to keep going. I think you touched on such a key point though, because what I talked about in my solo episode when I was sharing about my story is like the manipulation that is happening, use in the under the guise of Jesus and God and like within religion. It's manipulation, taking someone who thinks that she's going in for an ultrasound and then trying to convince her to keep that baby after knowing she's in a very vulnerable spot. Like, it's
mhm,
manipulation. And I think that these people think that they're doing a good thing, but they have no idea these women's stories. They have no idea what these women are going through and how harmful what they're doing is. And doing it, they think that it's like from a positive way, and I can see that narrative, but I think it's so deeply manipulative. And I talk about the protesters too going in with mine, and I had a friend with me, thankfully, because I
mhm.
if I was alone, like I really feel like I would have probably crumbled, like started questioning what I was doing and my beliefs. And yeah, I'm just so sorry you had to go through that, because the protesters out there and just all of it, it's just so already making a difficult decision, making it 20 times harder. Like, shame on you.
Mhm.
And it's just so ugly. It's not love. It's not love. It's pure shame and guilt and hate, and it's just so dangerous. So I'm glad you spoke on that. And yeah, you being alone, I can even imagine just adding on top of all of that. Cause I was, yeah, in mine, I had a friend. If I was alone, I don't know how I would have reacted. So yeah, I just want to, yeah, I'm just sorry you had to go through that, because it's just not, I know that feeling and I will never forget it, those protesters. So yeah.
And it's so interesting because I think we have to go back to the root of, even the woman handing me the pamphlet trying to convince me not to have this abortion. At her root of her core beliefs, and this is just an assumption, right?
Mhm.
If she's, you know, again, representing Catholicism, and at the root thinking, okay, abortion is a sin. And
Mhm.
if you commit a sin, then you're going to hell. And especially this sin, right? Like you feel like abortion's like ranked, like
Mhm.
top sin,
Right.
like up there.
Right.
But when you look at the foundation of it, and what's associated with that decision and the judgment associated with someone else making that decision is you're going to hell. God's going to punish you. Jesus died for your sins, so you better act right while you're here on earth. And there's a set of rules, limits, laws that you need to obey because you are less than, you are less divine, you are intrinsically, inherently sinful, not to mention at the base of it all, Adam and Eve. Eve bit the apple. She's evil, shameful, lustful, all the things. So there's so much underneath all of this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to be met with a woman trying to convince another woman what to do with her body,
Mhm.
with the same body, with the same biology, that
Mhm.
there's something so much greater underneath all of this. And so abortion and going through abortion made me question the beliefs that I was taught and the ways that I was taught to be, and all the shame around our bodies, abortion, sexuality. And so it was a blessing in disguise because to be in the experience that quote unquote should bring up the most shame for you, the most guilt, was actually my pathway out of that template, of that
Mhm.
conditioning.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a bridge. It was a bridge, a gateway, but it didn't always feel like that.
Right. Yeah. I think I'm realizing that too, of like it had, I even reflecting now, like it had me questioning everything. Like my abortion was very much a tower moment in my life. Like it came to shake things up. I needed to choose me. I needed to choose myself. And now I'm really realizing it aided me in my awakening and questioning these beliefs and where they stem from, because they're so deeply ingrained within our bones of that abortion is murder. And I don't believe that abortion is murder. And where did this come from? And it had me really opening my eyes to the teachings of religion and what is viewed and how it's viewed in society, of like what feels true for me, not what other people have told me, what feels really true for me. And what feels true for me is understanding that that soul came in to try and teach me in that moment. And it was the catalyst to learning how to love myself and come more home to myself and question these teachings and really see the harm that is being perpetuated by these teachings. So I think when you can really see it, like really reflect back, it was a catalyst for me into my awakening too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like coming more home to my heart and my truth and what I feel is true, not just what has been what has been fed to me. And I just think it's so, yeah, so important. Um, yeah, and I kind of want to go back to too, like it being a secret for you, because I think that's where a lot of women are too. So how did you keep it a secret the full time, or when did you end up sharing it with someone or your family or friends or anything like that?
Well, I have to give a acknowledgement to one of my best friends, Jordan, who I had met right before it happened. We were in an internship together, and she was the first person I ever told. And another friend, Megan, and both were so supportive. I mean, if it wasn't for my friendships during that time and truly sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it would have I would have moved through it in the same way. But I did. I kept it a secret from my family. I didn't tell my mom. I think it was 2 years later I told her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the partner that I was with at the time, I did tell him. He did not show up for the process, for the experience. And so that was another heartbreak in itself, is going
Mm-hmm.
through that alone and carrying something within your body that is energetically so deeply tied and connected to another person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I kept it a secret. I'm trying to remember the first time I ever like publicly spoke out. I think it was on my podcast back in 2022 when I moved
Mm-hmm.
to Italy and I decided to open up and share about it. And I wasn't, it's interesting. I think one of the little gifts of my soul blueprint, what I came here to do, is I've just been faced with so many things that have excavated shame and like where secrecy thrives, like all these
Mm-hmm.
things that bring up all those feelings of guilt and shame. And every single time something like that happens, my soul is like, you have to share this. You
Mm-hmm.
have to talk about this because the
Mm-hmm.
shame just thrives in its secrecy. And I think that it's been categorized as this like if you get pregnant and you're not ready, you're going to have an abortion. And that's a whole road to go down. Like, what if we took away all of the stories and religious beliefs behind it and just looked at it as a decision not to be a parent right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's common, it's common.
Yeah, I think we
And
don't,
I
I
think
think we're
we
realizing how much more common it is, but it's such a secret. No one talks about it. But when
yeah.
you open up and share and someone's like, oh, me too, me too. It's like the Me Too movement. It's like me too. And it's like, it's been such a secret. And what I say is like, you should use contraception. Absolutely. Like, it's not like anyone's trying to get pregnant that doesn't want to get pregnant. I think it's a really hard having an abortion is like a decision that no one wants to have to make, but it should be a choice and it should be the woman's choice. And if you've made that choice, that's a choice that you got to make. You should not be held hostage by that. And I think there's so many women that that are carrying this silent shame because no one talks about it, because it's so hush hush, it's a secret, you don't talk about that, it's not normal, and you should be ashamed of making that decision for yourself. And I think the more we open up and have these conversations, it's like letting the light in. Vulnerability, compassion lets the light in when there's such deep shame. It's like when you talk about it in safe spaces, that's when it starts to alleviate. It's like you can feel seen by another woman, like, oh, I have too, and it's okay. Or, it's helping someone else see it's you made the decision that you needed to do for you, and that's okay. You don't need to be like, you don't need to carry this shame. And I just think it's such a silent shame that is so collective right now, like
Mhm.
so collective right now. And I think something too is, I think that people have this experience, like the woman makes the choice to have an abortion and then just never speaks about it, because if you don't talk about it, then it's like it never happened. I know
Mhm.
for me, I had people that I shared with, and I'm so grateful. And I knew in that moment I did what I needed to do for me, and I stand by that decision, and I'm grateful I had the choice. And I think, like, after that though, I didn't want to talk about it. It's like it didn't happen if I don't talk about it. I told three of my friends, the man who had gotten me pregnant, which is Eric, my now husband, which I talk about. But it's like after that, it's no, I don't want to ever talk about it again. I don't want to revisit this. And I think that's where so many women, it's like they have this experience and then they never talk about it to act like it didn't happen. But I kind of want to dive into like how that will manifest in your life by keeping this a secret and by not sharing it, because it's going to show up in your life in unconscious ways and like manifest in different ways. And I'll talk about my experience like a little later on too, but I didn't realize for me it manifested in a way of not being connected to my sexuality, like this deep fear that I was going to get pregnant again, and not subconsciously not feeling worthy of having sex or allowing myself to enjoy sex. And I didn't even realize how deeply ingrained that was in me. And I think another way it shows up for people is like allowing yourself to be mistreated because you think you deserve it, because you think you've done something terribly wrong subconsciously, or like not allowing yourself to relish in when things are going well for you because you don't feel worthy of when things are going good. You subconsciously don't feel deserving of it because subconsciously you've done something terribly wrong, which we're rewiring that of like you were not you did what you needed to do for you, and that's okay. But I just kind of want to talk about how when we carry this secret, when we don't share with anyone, when we keep this close to our heart, when we act like it didn't happen, like how it manifests negatively in our lives. So I'm just curious if it manifested in your life in negative ways, and like how, yeah, like what that has looked like for you.
Yeah, two things come to mind when you ask, and it's been a while since I reflected on this because I want to say this so that other women know that it's possible.
Mhm.
I don't think about my abortions as much. I mean, really, like, I feel cleared, healed, at peace,
Mhm.
and fully at peace in my body and my mind and my heart. And you can get there. And so I want to,
Mhm.
like, really articulate that possibility into the
Yeah.
field, that if you're moving through just some deeply uncomfortable emotions around your decision, around the process, if you're in the process right now, like, you can arrive to a place of peace, and there's no rush to that place. Like, feel everything.
Mhm.
For me, it manifested very physically. My hormones were, and I should back it up and share that I had two abortions in a 5-month period. So I had the surgical abortion, and I also took the pill.
Mhm.
And the surgical abortion can leave scar tissue in your body. It can also deeply, because you're taking a pill to open the cervix and essentially um, force this process. And my hormones were really, really disrupted. And I didn't know at the time how it would impact my physical health, because I wasn't, and I was subconsciously aware, like I knew that things were off. But at the time, there's no education on how to care for yourself after the process.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm certainly not an expert in that department, but what I would say is, tend to your hormones, tend to your body with gentleness and softness. But for me, it was really physical. And it mostly manifested in how I ate, my relationship with food. So that same shame showed up in binging and restriction cycles, which is guilt, shame, secrecy, right? Just showing up in a
Mhm.
different way.
Mhm.
So like having a massive craving for food, for sugar, and then deciding not to eat anything for days, or then going back, just the pendulum swinging. There was some part of me looking for regulation, looking for comfort. And I think that word comfort is loud in this conversation because we think about the environments that we're in. If you're getting the surgery, if you're taking the pill, like there's no gentleness or softness around this process, around abortion, around the conversation. So it's like, how can we bring in that feminine element of like, can this be a nourishing experience, even if we're making a decision that feels uncomfortable, it feels challenging for our bodies, if there's so many stories and conditions around it. Like moving forward, if you ever are moving through an abortion, or even during your aftercare process, like how much softness and care can you bring in? Can you mother yourself through it? So for me, it was super physical. And, I had this experience that my soul chose. And I like to say that my soul chose it because it just felt so intentional. And I had things to say about it. But the conditions around me in society and growing up in Catholicism, I felt this because the womb and the throat are the same shape and they're deeply connected. So I felt my throat shut off after.
Mhm.
Um, my truth, my truth, my truth. What was the truth of my experience? What was the truth of going through that process? How did I feel? Well, so many things. But this experience that actually led me closer to my most authentic aligned path, even though it was challenging, I felt like I couldn't speak up about it because it would mean X, Y, and Z about my character, who I was. And if I did talk about it, I think this is the other flip side. And I think this is really important to say out loud. If I shared my story, specifically in also how my partner at the time showed up for it, I would also expose him and
Mhm.
his lack of showing up if I truly articulated what happened with him. And he was such a big part of it. And I was protecting him from criticism, from potentially. I didn't want to say anything negative because we had a really tumultuous relationship. I added to that tumultuous dynamic. And there was, again, even though it was my truth, who am I protecting? And why am I abandoning parts of myself or shrinking my truth of that experience and choosing to protect him instead? And I think that dynamic within the feminine of abandoning ourselves,
Mhm.
I think that's what abortion showed me the most, like
Yeah.
abandoning myself.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's so many layers that I could go down. But yeah, tell me about how it manifested for you, how that shame, guilt manifested for you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's so, especially too in the beginning of what you started to say too, like it's possible to heal and not think about your abortion and feel good in your decision. Like I genuinely feel that way too. Like I am so at peace with my decision. I think like it's possible to get here. What happens though, and why I feel called to speak is what is going on out in the world is not okay. And
Mm.
Roe v. Wade being overturned in 2022, and now each state deciding, and just what is going on, it makes me think about it. And I'm like, oh, the only shame that I am feeling now has been projected onto me from
religion, from society. So we have to talk about these things. And I hope by us sharing our stories and being at peace and finding the lessons and the beauty and the experience of why we feel like we went through these things, that like you can find that too. You know, there's nothing that like it's possible to find that peace. And I think, yeah, I'm just so grateful you brought that in, because I feel like that's such a big piece of, I think, why we need to talk about our experiences, is because, you know, we've moved through so many layers, but getting to a place of ultimately like being at peace. Like I wouldn't have even been thinking about my abortion if I didn't need to speak it publicly. And now as I am, I'm getting all of these like thoughts thrown my way, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's just so challenging. But I love that you brought that in too, about it affecting your health too, because I think that's something that a lot of women struggle with too, is like the aftercare. It's not talked about, and we don't know how it's going to affect the body. And it's just the education isn't there, the research isn't there, the education isn't there. So like it's so important to speak to that piece. So thank you for sharing that how it manifested like physically in your body too. um and I think for me, just what I'm realizing is kind of what I shared. I feel like being so fearful that I'm going to get pregnant again. So, like, not allowing, I realize how deeply that fear has been ingrained in me. The first time I had sex, I was so scared I was going to get pregnant. Just like that's what I was, if you have sex, you get pregnant. Like that's the teaching, you know? So don't have sex. If you don't want to get pregnant, don't have sex. And it's like, no, we need to be connected to our bodies. We, as women, we're meant to be connected to our sexuality and our pleasure. And that's when we're connected to our bodies and our abundance and love and all of it. And I think I've just really started to uncover how deep that fear went, that I was going to get pregnant. And then, so not allowing myself to enjoy sex, even. It's like I feel so disconnected. I felt so disconnected from it. And I just think like I'm learning and continually learning over these past years of my healing journey of like, it's beautiful to be connected to sexuality in your body, and we're meant to, and there's nothing shameful about it. And I think a part of my reclamation is reclaiming my sexuality and my body. And it's not even only stemming from having my abortion. That was just a piece. But I think that's also like societal conditioning and just the way the teachings of, you know, growing up within religion and sex just not being talked about. And if you have sex before marriage, it's a sin, and all of these things. It's just, I'm realizing how deeply rooted it is, and how it was really affecting my sexuality. So I feel like a piece for me that I'm really actively conscious and aware of is like allowing myself to enjoy sex and be present with it, and know that I'm deeply worthy and deserving of it, and kind of like really working through that fear of like getting pregnant again. And yeah, I just feel like that's something that was showing up for me, that has been like that has been like on my healing journey. Little bits have been showing me how deeply like how disconnected I was from my body and my sexuality. It's just hard. I feel like that's how a lot of women are too, just with how we talk about sex in the world today too. I just think it's like it's so deep. It's just so deep. So yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
and
Yeah, I'm curious how that is for you.
I think I felt there was a subconscious thread of that I was manipulative, like that
Mm,
for getting pregnant was somehow all on me, like my responsibility,
mm,
and that in the future, if I chose to have sex and say I got pregnant, that a partner or someone that I was seeing would think that I did that on purpose to like trap them in a
yeah.
relationship. And so I think underneath all of that is like feeling like all of the responsibility on the woman
Mhm.
to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
But I also think it points to something else that's coming through as I'm sharing it. Because similar to you, like I haven't been thinking about it until different changes have been made to its availability, its lack of, the resources, the lack of resources, the law. But
Mhm.
now it's like breaking through so much. Um,
Mhm.
there's an underlying fear in me that was like, if this happens again, I have to do it alone
Mm.
because of the way that at the time my partner didn't show up.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't even like call that relationship partnership. It was a relationship. Um, so there was a subconscious fear that if I was sexually intimate with somebody, that they would leave and
Mm.
I would be
Yeah.
abandoned.
Right.
But something that I've been reflecting on a lot recently, because I'm really past, there was a phase and a time where all the experiences I moved through that were a part of my awakening, that I had to heal deep layers from, were so heavily on my heart, on my body, on my mind. And because I just feel free from them, like I've given them the love and attention they've needed, and the care and the nourishment and the healing that they've required, I can let them go. And I don't really like connect with the past in that way anymore. But what I can appreciate is that those abortions showed me where I was abandoning myself. And I'm grateful for the experience because it taught me, like going through that alone. And I think there are a lot of women that go through it alone.
Mhm.
Um, and many women who have beautiful relationships and they get to work through that together, and it it deepens the intimacy in their relationship.
Mhm.
But going through it alone, it made me turn into my internal source and say, okay, if no one's going to hold you through this, Ellie, how are you going to hold yourself?
Mhm.
And after I had the surgery, I actually went to a Catholic church on campus after,
Mhm.
not for forgiveness. And I'll do a little thread tie here in a moment.
Mhm.
Not because I felt guilty, but because I needed a physical environmental space where I could go and pray. And I think within Catholicism, and I can't speak for all religions because I don't know them well enough, there was so much around prayer and praying for forgiveness of like all the things we've done wrong, which I feel is such a distortion to the truth of prayer. Like, if we can come back to prayer as a connection with our divine nature instead of I'm laying down all the things that I've done in this human experience that make me a bad person, like prayer prayer is what got me through like all of the moments that I just like couldn't understand and couldn't. I was like, who's going to hold me through this? I'm on my knees, I'm at the ocean, like
Mhm.
something, somebody help, is
Mhm.
really when my internal source started to light on and was like, I'm here, Ellie. Like,
Mhm.
I got you. I
Mhm.
got you. You're safe. Like, you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I have you. I'm going to hold you through this. Um, and that was really the opening. The abortions were the opening of like, oh, I can hold myself and I don't
Mhm.
need anyone. But when that support is there, you can then receive it from the right people in the right spaces. And I know you obviously had a healthy man to hold you through that experience, which is so beautiful.
But I
After,
love what you said because I think too that whole experience brought me back home to myself because I found through this whole process it brought me to learn how to love myself even though Eric was there and was able to share like you've done nothing wrong, like you did what you needed to do for me. I still had to work through the subconscious and the conscious shame and guilt and pain, and I feel like that it brought me back home to myself, my heart, my forgiveness for myself. Not that I needed to ask for forgiveness for having the abortion, because I do. I've connected with that soul and I'm so grateful for that soul to come through and teach me. I needed to see where I was at that point in my life, how much I was
mm,
struggling in that point in my life, and see where I was and have so much grace and compassion and love for myself and be like, oh, my sweet girl, I see you. I love you. It's okay. Because I was in college. Eric and I shared in my episode, like Eric and I had unprotected sex when we were drinking. It was like I needed to really like see where I was in that point in my life in college and how I was showing up in my life. It was a huge tower moment for me of like, Halls, you need to take care of yourself. Like, learn how to come here and let's learn how to like be with you and see how you're showing up in your life and what do you want your life to look like. And it catapulted me into my healing, because at that point too I was struggling with anxiety with my eating disorder, like prior to all of that. And it was like, whoa babe, we need to really learn how to take care of ourselves and come more home, and like let's focus on our healing. And that's when it catapulted me into inner child work and inner teenage work, and like learning how to love all these younger parts and see where my eating disorder was coming from, of like just wanting to be enough. I just wanted to be enough. I just wanted to be loved and I wanted to be good enough. And it catapulted me into like a window into all of my wounds, and how could I bring all of these younger parts and all of this pain into my being and hold myself through it. Like I and this has just been a piece of that, but it's helped me come home to my voice and who I am and speaking how I feel about this situation. Because too, I realized I've been abandoning myself too, to try and keep the peace, to try and not make any waves, to try and keep everything good, not speaking out, not trying to like ruffle any feathers. And in that process of actually honoring my how I feel about abortion in my story, I was abandoning myself. And like a part of me sharing my story was me taking my power back and me not abandoning myself and trusting myself and my heart and what I feel to be true around abortion, even though there's adversity, even if people within my family and community don't agree with how I view. Like, speaking these beliefs has been a huge catapult into not abandoning myself anymore. So it's so interesting that I feel like it's like a gateway into coming more home to yourself. Yeah.
100%. And there was a video I shared online when the downloads came through, and I know that you've spoken about this too. Like, abortions are awakenings,
Mhm.
and they feel like these opportunities to break through all these templates of conditioning, and almost like, had we not gone through the abortion, there are different pathways to access these emotions, but for me, it showed me where the shame and guilt was. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know if that shame and guilt would have been so easily identified or excavated without going through an experience that is like, here it is. Like, here it
Mhm.
is. And
Mhm.
here's what keeps you silent and from speaking your truth and connection to your body and your sexuality and the shame and the sin and the zha, zha, zha. So it feels like we move through these, what some of us and sometimes at the beginning perceive as barriers and as challenges. And it's not to say they aren't challenging, but
Mhm.
to me, these are the gateways to our awakening when we go
Mhm.
through such profound experiences that make us question what we've been
Mhm.
taught.
Yeah, because it was really on reflecting too. I was like, if it weren't for this experience, I would not be the woman I am today. And like, I know that in my bones. Like, I would not be the woman that I am today. And I wouldn't be speaking about these things in the way that I'm speaking about them today, that so desperately need to be spoken about in this way, if I wouldn't have gone through this myself. I think it was a huge catapult. And I think, obviously, like every person's experience is so different, but I think when you can really see, instead of living in such deep shame and guilt about that experience, it's like, what was that trying to teach you? What was that experience trying to teach you? How can you sit with yourself and learn and give yourself so much grace and compassion for where you were at that point in your life? And like, how can it help you come more home, instead of like carrying that deep shame and guilt, like getting curious about it, like getting out all of the external noise and really sitting with yourself and how you feel. I feel
Mhm.
like there's so much power in that. And that's what I want for every woman that has had an abortion, that is just feeling such deep shame and guilt. Like, it's not about encouraging or discouraging abortion. It's just like, if you've had one, like, how can you see what this was trying to teach you, and how can we learn instead of just staying stuck in this secret and in this shame.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I just feel like I kind of want to touch a little bit deeper on the religious aspect. I know we've been diving into that, but I just feel like, with Catholicism, which both of us will speak to Catholicism because that's how we both grew up. But I just feel like, obviously, the messaging there is that you've murdered a baby and that you must seek forgiveness. And I think it's such a deeply ingrained belief that is in our bones. It is in our DNA. It is in our bones. And there's like such a subconscious belief, conscious and subconscious, that you've done something terribly wrong. And I didn't realize that I was still carrying that subconscious belief. I just recently did a hypnotherapy session that I talked about before. Um, and it was like uncovering, because I was about to start sharing my story, and like so much fear was coming up for me. Like, oh my God, like so much. And that's the shame of like, what are other people going to think? Like, are other people going to think of me differently? Like, how am I going to come off? Like, it was a huge ego death for me to share this. And I just was having to face so much fear. And I realized underneath that fear was a subconscious belief that I still thought that I had done something terribly wrong because of how deeply ingrained these religious beliefs are and what's in our society. And I think what was so supportive for me was my inner knowing and my higher self coming through so strongly in that hypnotherapy session for me, to teach me and to be like, teach me about my body and just like sensuality, and just that I've done nothing wrong and I did what I needed to do for me. And take these chains. The visual that came through on the hypnotherapy was me as a little girl, and I had chains all over my body, restricting me from being able to move, just completely chained. And I started to release those chains and get that off my little girl's body and be like, baby, be free. You are free. You are safe. It is safe for you to be you. It is safe for you to be connected to your body and your sexuality. And we are releasing this, and my own inner knowing coming through so strong. And I don't think we realize how deep this belief is, and it's sneaky. It's literally like in our bones and in the DNA, and then it's reiterated out in what's going on in the world right now.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, like, how you've worked through any of those conditionings as well, like if there's anything that's sticking out to you that you want to share around that for you.
For me, it feels like, it showed up as feeling like I did something wrong and getting punished. Like I'm
Mhm.
gonna get in trouble.
Right.
Something's gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
And personally, I think there are so many waves that our mind can't always intellectualize, of past lives we've had, our ancestry. Like there's so many deep, 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 deep layers. But for me, as you were articulating this, I've done something wrong. These experiences we go through, such as abortion, to me unveiled the intrinsic conditioning of I am sinful. Like, regardless of what I do, I'm already bad. I'm already
Mhm.
bad inside. I've already done something wrong. I've already faltered. I'm not pure. And I think that word for women is like bing, 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 bing. I'm not
Mhm.
pure. I'm not pure. I'm not pure. I'm not pure. It's actually a storyline that I've been working through the last couple of years pretty strongly. Like, what does it mean to be pure? And I felt like these abortion experiences somehow, and even having sex, like having sex with multiple people in
Mhm.
my lifetime, there was still a subconscious thread of like, you're dirty
Right.
and not as many men will want you. And I think about how deeply tied the relationship between the feminine and the masculine is when it comes to abortion, and personally how it manifested in my own story of um just my relationships with men, what they thought of me, if I was desirable, what they would think about me, if they knew I had two abortions, like their own personal opinions, would that make them think that I had this really close relationship with someone, and then were they threatened by that? Like there were so many stories in my mind of my history and my experience with that. Um, but as we're sharing and chatting today, it's just noise. Like I'm just watching it as noise.
Mhm.
And this return of the feminine to remember and to reclaim our inherent worthiness. We are being asked, our human body is walking into these situations with an open heart so that it can understand every facet of this human experience, so that we can recollect and be like, oh, here's where shame lives. Oh, here's where it holds a seed, a major seed, abortion, major
Mhm.
seed for women. Um, and I just come back to the deep unraveling happening right now. And even in our external world where we're witnessing shifts in law, shifts in resources, I know it's easy to place our focus and attention in that space, and in the deepest place in my heart, I am so hopeful that we are freeing the women of our world right now by
Mhm.
having these conversations, by feeling the
Yeah.
courage to
Mhm.
articulate this for
Yeah.
whoever is here with us today and gets to listen. And you're saying me too, and yeah, I felt that. And even if it's not the exact same circumstance, or you have different thoughts and feelings about this too, we are all here to help reclaim our freedom together, and the
Mhm.
freedom that we have within, over our bodies, over our choices, what we do with it, our sexuality. And it's a deeply layered unwinding. But I would say right now in this present moment, I'm working on opening my voice more and more and more and more and more, and letting go of that fear of something's going to happen to me. And I think that
Mhm.
that seed was deeply activated with having both abortions and not being able to tell my family, and then opening up about it online. And I just keep being asked to, and I'm sure you feel this way too, like more. And not
Mhm. Mhm.
necessarily for the sake of just speaking,
Right.
but for the sake of opening the door of where all the shame and secrecy lives, letting it come out and letting it have a stage of like, this can be seen,
Mhm.
and it can be held in this lens of perfection, of wholeness, of we are all of it. We are the shame, we are the guilt, we are the love, we are the forgiveness, we're all of it. So can we come back into our divine mother archetype that we all hold inside, every single one of us, and hold these experiences with so much grace? Like you said, it's an invitation to bring as much grace in as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think something that keeps coming through is like judgment. Like I think so many of us hold so much judgment for ourselves, and also there's just so much judgment out in the world. And I think when you've had an experience like this, it's like opening yourself up to judgment, but also how are you judging yourself? Like I know for me, there was like a part of me that like still felt like I did something terribly wrong and judging myself for enjoying sex sometimes. And then it's like, but how can we let that go? How can we stop judging ourselves? Because I believe too, like that's what God wants for all of us, is to not have any judgment. It's like non-judgment, love, compassion, understanding. If you can have that for yourself, you will be able to have that for others too, and honor wherever anyone else is on their path. I think there's such a big call around judgment here that like really needs to melt away, because there is so much judgment out in the world, and we judge ourselves so deeply sometimes too. And I think like, how can we come back to that compassion and understanding for ourselves, and forgive ourselves for our past mistakes, and learn from our past mistakes, and not be held hostage to the past mistakes? And not saying that abortion is a mistake, but even just like the past mistakes that you've made in general. And I just think, yeah, kind of releasing that judgment. And I think
yeah, I just feel like there's so much of that in our world where we're really being asked to let that go. And I think too, as we speak about these experiences, it's helping alleviate some of that judgment, some of that shame, and hopefully allowing other people, if you've had this experience, like, how can you alleviate that shame and judgment too? Like, how can we do this together? It is like a deep opening of the throat and trying to be free. It's like this sense of freedom. Like, I just want freedom, liberation, reclamation for all of us. And I just think, yeah, how can we kind of like let all of that go? I just think, yeah, there's so much. So I just, yeah, I'm so grateful to be having these conversations, and I am so hopeful for the future. I'm so hopeful. I genuinely feel like this is happening now because we have to hit fucking rock bottom. We are hitting rock bottom. All the darkness is coming to light so we can see it, hold space for it, have compassion for it, understand it, and choose another way. Like, I'm so hopeful we're moving in that positive direction, even though right now looks really dark. Like, look how much it's ignited within so many people. I wouldn't be using my voice in this way if this hadn't have happened. It didn't happen. So I think it's also igniting so many people to start talking, to start sharing, to start being real. Like, start being real. We need to start caring about one another and being real. Another thing that's coming to mind is like perfectionism, especially for women, like the sense of pure and like being perfect. I feel like there's such a want, a desire to, as women, to feel like we are perfect, we look perfect, we're present perfect, to feel worthy of love. And it's like knowing that your messiness is what makes you lovable. Like, you're lovable no matter what. And I think that's where even like the inner child, the inner teenager, all that stuff comes in of like, I've got you, I love you, I see you no matter what anyone else thinks. Like, you're allowed to be messy. Everyone's messy. Everyone's done things that they're not proud of. How about we all just start being open about it, and stop trying to hide behind these masks? It's just like, I feel like the walls and the masks have got to melt away. And this is a part of the melting. This is like a part of the melting. So, yeah, yeah, we've got to just have more compassion and understanding for each other too, I feel.
It's happening. And, you brought up something else really key, and it's this passion igniting in you. And I feel it too. And had I not gone through abortion, I wouldn't care if, like, I wouldn't have the same, truly. That's my honest truth. Watching
Mhm.
the laws shift, I probably would not care in the way
Mhm.
that I do now,
Mhm.
because I just be like, well, I don't understand that. And all the conditioning would layer in, all, if I hadn't done the work. But the truth is, we feel this anger towards people creating laws, changing them.
Mhm.
They're not going to change them unless we speak up and
Mhm.
we change too, from the
Mhm.
inside out.
Mhm.
And something I've noticed within the feminine is, like, for a long time we've been waiting for the masculine to see our wisdom, like to see our worth, to be seen, to be fully heard. It's a mirror of us waiting for us to look in the
Mhm.
mirror and say, I see you, woman. I
Mhm.
see your worth. I see your power. I hear your voice.
Mhm.
We are the change makers. We are the
Mhm.
change makers. So
Mhm.
this conversation, whatever it sparks and the threads it takes, like, I've been thinking so much lately about the changes in the world, and how I've heard many times throughout my life and through society conditions, like, you can't change the world, just yourself. And I'm like, yeah, but we change the world by doing this internal work. And by doing the internal work, you then are inspired to take action, to, you know, put footsteps here. And I really feel that within our generation, within these conversations, like, the next step is like, yeah, we can talk about this for
Mhm.
years, for days, but what are we going to do as a
Mhm.
collective? And the truth is,
Mhm.
we can't do it alone.
Right.
So the more we bind, we
Mhm.
can make waves. And I believe that that's kind of the next phase. I feel like 2025 has been super energetic, super, like, lots of internal shifting. And I feel like the next couple of years, there will be a lot of just divine inspiration and action towards, okay, let's make the changes and how we feel empowered to do so. so that, one example, more women have access to abortion and resources in a safe way, so that they know how to care for themselves after, so that they know everything that they're feeling is excavating things that have been conditioned for lifetimes. And just, I think it's time to take the wisdom that's awakened and be like, let's do something together.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I keep getting the visual of like making waves, like going through a storm right now, making huge waves just by talking about these things. We're
Mhm.
stirring things up. We're getting people ignited. Like, I was so scared to share my story, and I received such beautiful feedback and so many women that reached out. Like, I'm so proud of you for your bravery and courage. And like, you're igniting something within me too. It's like, it's these conversations that ignite. When one woman speaks, it gives another woman permission to too. It's like when one woman sees the bravery and courage in one woman, hell yeah, I'm going to do that too. It's like we help each other do it. Just how I saw your video and you ignited me, and it's like that ripple is so huge. It's like you don't realize how just using your voice, even if it's shaking, because I was so scared and it was shaky and I was so scared of what anyone else was going to think, but I knew I'm strong in who I am and I'm strong in my beliefs, and I know that I'm being called to do this. And it's like igniting so many other people, helping other people see things in a different way. Cause I do believe like our personal stories hold so much power. Like they have the ability to help people see things in a different way. And yes, it's our wisdom and what we're sharing, but it's our stories. It's like, this is what we've been through. This is what came through. This is how we feel. If you've been through this too, like we see you, we've got you, you're not alone. And like, how can we work together to continue to fight for women's healthcare and women's rights and the ability to choose? Not like not promoting abortion, not no promoting promotion. It should be the choice. It should be the woman's choice. And I think it's like just having these conversations is sparking something. And I think like women are really gaining their voices, and it's only going to lead to action, like more action that will
Yeah.
happen, you know? And I just think, yeah, I just see right now, it just feels like ignition, but also still understanding so much suppression. Like there's so much suppression and shame and guilt, and creating these conversations and these safe spaces to be able to process it and feel it. And it's just so needed now more than ever. And if things weren't the way they were in the world right now, we wouldn't have been speaking out in such a way. Like I think it all has its divine purpose. It just really does. So
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. And I think just the last thing I want to touch on
Yeah.
around like for women that are really starting to reconnect to their bodies, their wombs after having an abortion,
Mm.
working through the layers of grief and shame and guilt and pain and projection and all of the things, like how can one really like reconnect to themselves and their bodies and their wombs during this period? Like what do you feel like you would, yeah, like the offering you would share for these women that are navigating this deep grief and shame right now?
Mm. What wants to come through, there's two things. One, more of a tactical, tangible practice to take, and then um, more just big sister energy.
Yeah.
um, Tangibly, tactically work with water. Water is a way to cleanse, and I don't use the word cleanse of cleansing something you did wrong, but to clarify any distortion that you're holding on to around your experience that is not yours to hold. So taking baths for your womb space after an abortion can be really deeply supportive, with salts, and just as a physical ceremony to enter into the water of like any shame, guilt, grief I'm carrying, like let the water take it, let it wash away, let it wash through the drain, work with the water element. The water is the feminine, and it's the waters of our womb, and so it's like bathing yourself in your own essence and letting the waters just clear away anything you're not meant to hold on to. Because the truth is, when we go through these experiences, we're often not only working through our own layers but collective layers too. So a
Mhm.
lot of what you're feeling, you could also just be picking up in the field around the consciousness of abortion and all the
Mhm.
stories it holds.
Yeah.
So work with water, work with the water element. And the other thing I would say is, you know, this is a moment to hold yourself, and there is no right way to navigate it, and there's no timeline, and there's no linear step of like, here's my moment of breakthrough or healing, or it's never going to show up again. Like, just allow whatever it is. It could be, you could be feeling numbness, allow numbness. You could be
Mhm.
feeling anger, allow anger, grief, allow rage, allow shame, or allow peace. If you feel like you have zero residue from the experience, beautiful. I've heard so many women say that. Like,
Mhm.
I feel great. I don't feel anything. And for some, that's true. For some, it's in there really deep. But
Mhm.
again, there's no way to move about this. So just let go of needing to intellectualize your process with your abortion. And with the womb specifically, your hands, and we chatted about this in our other episode together, Holly, but your hands are
Mhm.
an extension of your heart chakra. You don't need someone else to find restoration, balance, equilibrium. Just put your hands on your womb every night. Just so your womb is like, she's here. I'm here. I'm see you. I'm present with you. That presence alone already begins alchemy in the womb. So whatever it's holding on to, as soon as it feels like, oh, my touch is safe, my touch is present, energy already starts to shift. So that's
Mhm.
just another really simple thing that you can do. Yeah. And just know that we're here. Like Holly and I are here with you, walking with you. We've moved through so many different things, and you're not alone. And I think
Mhm.
it's easy to feel alone in this process, and especially if it's in secrecy. And you're not alone. You're held, and there are women that have walked ahead of you, that will walk after you, um, that have moved through this, and we're with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I think too, this actually happened for me recently, which was really interesting. What I want to say is like allow space for it all, allow space for all the emotions. I just had a day as I've been preparing to share this, like so much has come up for me, like facing so much fear and just like the distortion in our beliefs and how damaging they are. And I had a day where I laid in bed. It's making me emotional. And I just cried. I feel like I was grieving for all of the women that are hurting, that these teachings and just how it's viewed, how it's keeping so many of us stuck, and just grieving, like crying. Like I allowed myself to feel all day. It was a Sunday. I laid in bed and I just literally cried and felt. And I feel like it was such a big release, not just for my own womb space, but for like just the grief and pain that so many of us face. And I was just like, I'm going to allow myself to sit here and feel what I need to feel with no judgment, because this is what I need to feel right now. And I just think there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just like giving yourself space during the day to connect with yourself, to connect with your center, connect with your emotions, and allow whatever wants to come through to come up, and you be that nurturing, loving mama bear energy to yourself of like, I love you, I see you, I've got you, I'm going to be here with you as long as you need. The shame is not yours to carry, like, and just really being a nurturing energy to yourself and just allowing space for it all. Because I think like grief, shame, I talked about this too, like shame, all my past sexual experiences, partners came to mind at one time, and I was really sitting with that and loving myself through it. And I think there's just so much when we can really sit in the discomfort and sit with these emotions with non-judgment and really hold it with compassion, it starts to dissipate. Because every time you heal, you feel, and our emotions just want to be felt. But most of us spend our whole lives running from our pain, running from our shame, continually being busy to just drown out the noise. And I think the more that you can really start creating pockets of time for you to sit with yourself and just get curious about what's coming up for you and allow all of it to be there with just like that unconditional love for yourself, is really, really powerful. And I just, yeah, I just want any woman to know, as I said, like, I hope that you can find peace in your situation in any way that feels good for you, because I think peace is all that matters at the end of the day, like finding peace in whatever way feels best for you. And just knowing that that soul came through, I believe, to teach you something, and it wasn't the right time, and you did what you needed to do for you, and that's okay. And you made the decision that you needed to do for you. And yeah, and just being okay with that. And one other thing too is, like, I feel like shame dies when it's told in safe spaces. So if this is a secret, like being able to speak it out to someone, finding someone in your community, or messaging Ellie or me, or going into a therapy session and sharing with your therapist, or a family member or close friend that you feel like won't have judgment. I just feel like when we keep things secret, it festers and makes us feel even worse about what we've done. And I just think the moment you open your throat, the moment you share, you let the light in. And I just think there's something really powerful about sharing your experience in a safe container to help alleviate some of that shame that you may be carrying, and wherever that feels best for you. um yeah, I just feel like I wanted to bring that in there too. And yeah, that you're not alone. Just like Ellie said, yeah, we are with you. We are with you. And yeah, we are all in this together. We really are. All of us are really, we are. So yeah. Is there anything we missed? Anything that you want to share that, yeah, we didn't touch on? Anything else that wants to come through?
I think just the last thing is, if you chose abortion as a result of rape and not having any choice in that sexual experience, I just want to hold you in that. And I can't personally speak to that experience in the way that I can speak to my own, but yeah, I just want to acknowledge that very real reality as well. And
Mhm.
I think that it has its own set of emotional experiences and
Mhm.
processing, and hopefully
Absolutely.
there are more women that have moved through that can also speak to that in a deeper way and more intimate way. But thank you, Holly, for holding a space for the conversation, and for your courage and your bravery, and just calling women forward to share and to articulate, because you're right, it just gives us permission and we create ripples. So I'm excited for our daughters to come. I'm
Yes.
excited for the freedom that they'll get to remember a lot more easily than we did.
Ah, me too. Oh, full body chills. Yes. It's going to be a different world. It really is. And these conversations are where it starts. It's just, and the reclamation within ourselves first, too. So, yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah. And where can people find you? I know that you just came out with a new album, right? Or is it out yet on Spotify?
It'll be out in a few days. It's
Ooh,
called The
beautiful.
Sound of Love, and I created it to hold you through a medicine journey. But you could also just listen to it in a meditation or as you're driving. But the entire album is a channeled transmission of love and the sound of love and the Egyptian harp. So there's vocals,
Ooh.
harp, and we actually measured the frequency of the sound, and it's certain points hit the 432 love
Wow.
frequency. So it is the sound of love.
Oh,
um,
beautiful.
but yeah, I'm on Instagram at Elevate with Ellie Stiles, and also on TikTok at Elevate with Ellie Stiles. And I do have a womb healing abortion meditation. So I can send you the link for that, or you can find it on my
Yeah.
website. Just
Okay.
a guided transmission to take you through healing and working with the waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited to listen to your album.
Thank
Congratulations on that. That's
you.
huge. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yay. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom, for all that you shared, for you having the strength and courage to share too, because you called me forward. So I'm, oh my gosh, just thank you. Thank you, because you did call me forward, and you were a big piece in gaining the courage to share. So I just so appreciate you and the space and your time and your energy. Yeah.
Thanks, sister.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.